mean, I'm honored to have Floyd, my friend, former coworker, on board with us today, talking about mentoring versus coaching. It's such a great topic, you guys. I'm telling you, because if you're like me, you typically use these two terms interchangeably, and they're not synonymous. I know they kind of flow together but they have very different purposes and meanings. So we're going to get into that a little bit. But before we do, let me introduce my guest real quick, man. This is amazing. Now, my friend Floyd has a Master of Arts in Strategic Communication. He's a PhD candidate in General Psychology. He has worked in diverse populations in both for-profit and nonprofit institutions. He's got over 10 years of experience in curriculum design, course development, and classroom management, mentoring, and check this out, mentoring individuals to exceed personal and professional goals. And that's what we're getting into today. So Floyd, welcome. Glad you're here, my friend.
Hey, thanks, Matt. Thanks for having me. I'm honored, man.
Absolutely. Well, as we get into it, like I said, I'm friends with Floyd. I've known him for a while. I want him to tell you a little bit about his faith and his family to kind of set this, set the tone for who he is and what he does.
So my faith journey has been kind of different from what most people would anticipate. I grew up in church, traditional Protestant church. I entered into ministry at a very young age, and I thought that would be my entire life, would be ministry. And so it was a really uncomfortable situation back in 2008, 2009, when I kind of felt a shift begin to happen. Things began to change for my wife and I. We were very uncomfortable because we had never been through a transition like that. Long story short, we ended up resigning the church and spent a long time kind of away from traditional ministry, really just for me, focusing on my education, trying to find a new purpose in life. It was very uncomfortable, but the end result has been extremely rewarding. Faith and family are my two number ones. They kind of go in lockstep, hand in hand. Married my high school sweetheart, adopted an older boy, birthed 2 kids, have 5 grandchildren. So I'm living the best part of my life, Matt, and it's pretty amazing.
Man, married your high school sweetheart. I mean, what a love story. Come on, you guys. Right. Who else out there married their high school sweetheart? Talk to me. That's amazing. I really admire you, Floyd, in a lot of ways. I really do. And everything Floyd is telling you about his faith and family, I can attest to. I see it not on a daily basis. I don't see Floyd every day, but when I do see him, man, consistency is what I think about Floyd. He's just consistent, man, consistent, showing up on time, doing the work, and that's what we can get from him today. So, but Floyd, I want to talk very real to our audience. Let's say somebody's kind of middle-aged. Let's say they're around 35 years old, and they're just saying, I understand this mentoring, coaching thing, but I'm kind of late in the game. The typical person goes to college, they get their degree at 22, and they do a couple jobs, and they got time to correct some things. But if I'm about 35 years old, around there, and I feel like I'm giving up on my dreams, what advice would you give to that person?
Well, it's funny, man. And first I'll qualify that everything I say, I only know one way to be. I only know how to be myself. So some of the phraseology that I'll use might be a little bit odd for your audience, but I'm just real. I'm just who I am. As long as you're still sucking wind, there's still opportunity. I was 35 years old when I shifted from what had been my lifelong career. Literally everything that I had done up until that point was either to fund or fulfill ministry. I was 35 years old when that transition occurred for us. And I don't think it's ever too late. As long as you're still breathing, there's still opportunity. The reality of it is everybody faces challenges, whether it be that you're too young or you're too old. There's always going to be critics out there. And the worst critic that I've ever had is the internal critic, the internal voices, the way that I talk to myself. But the truth is that if anyone has ever done it, anyone that looks like you has ever done it, anyone your age has ever done it, anyone your race, your gender, your Christian, your faith background, your spiritual background, whatever that may look like, if they've done it, you can too. And it's never too late to start. especially in today's society, right, where life expectancy is continuing to expand, the healthcare industry making massive changes. I expect to work for another 25, 30 years. And so definitely investing some time into adjustment and a new direction is definitely time well spent, in my opinion.
Man, well put, Floyd. I tell you, I totally agree with you. My life, I'm 51 right now, and I don't really think I got my life together until I was 48. There's a lot of things I did, and then you and I have talked off camera a little bit about, and in terms of some different things I did to kind of get off track. And so it really wasn't until late in life. So that message is real important to me, and I believe a lot of my audience is that you're right. It's never too late. But I want to hit on the subject right now because we're getting into this mentoring versus coaching deal. And I know some of you guys are sitting on the edge of your seat waiting for us to do this. But you see what's right behind Floyd? All his books, man. And, I know we still live in a fast-paced society. It's news-driven. Everybody wants to get up and watch, consume 5-6 hours of news. Number one, I encourage you not to do that. Get enough of the news that you need to be aware of things that are going on, but don't let it dominate your life. But Floyd, and looking at all those books, how important is it for a person just to get quiet and read, man?
You're actually only seeing about half of my physical library. In addition to that, there is I have a massive electronic library. It's not an exaggeration to say I have somewhere in the neighborhood of about 6,000 titles online. Part of that is from a previous employer that I worked for a publishing company, and so I have every title that they ever offered. I have a massive library. I believe that reading is fundamental, and I believe it's key for a couple of reasons. Number one, I think that we shouldn't fill up all the quiet time. First of all, I think that we should be careful that we make time just to be quiet. And what I mean by that is a lot of people think, well, during my quiet time, I'm going to read. And that's important. It's valuable. It's crucial. And I'll get to that. Mm-hmm. But there's a time, too, where you just need to sit in silence and just be quiet. Not strategizing about the day or weeks ahead, not contemplating the things that have already gone by, but just sit and be quiet, not thinking about anything, just kind of shut down the mind. A lot of people will call it meditation. I tend to stay away from that phrase because of the connotation that goes along with it. I'm not talking about anything mystical. I'm not talking about anything spiritual. I'm talking about just letting your mind rest. Because a lot of people don't realize is even when you're asleep, your mind is still working. You just need to quiet yourself. If that means turning on white noise, literally just static, or if you can do it, just sit in silence and build that like a muscle where you spend time at first when you first start, 30 seconds is going to feel like an eternity.
Yeah.
So do what you can, 30 seconds, push yourself to a minute, set a timer, get to a couple of minutes. I'm honestly at the point, Matt, where I can sit in just silence and quiet with my coffee cup in that chair right over there and just sit in silence for about 15 minutes. And what that does is it actually just lets your mind recover, and then it energizes you for the day. But reading is fundamental. Reading is crucial. Reading does a number of things for you. First of all, there's no greater tool for learning for most people than reading, because reading is a multifaceted educational tool. Reading gives you thoughts, gives you ideas, it gives you inspiration. Reading regularly, it makes you a better writer. Even if you're reading something that's a different genre than what you write, it will make you a better writer just because you begin to understand sentence structure and word flow and things of that nature. For a lot of people, reading can be an escape. I'm not a big fictional reader. Most of the stuff that I read is personal development, personal growth, spiritual things, faith related, but it can be a great escape. It can be, and it's a distraction. It gets your mind busy while your body's at rest, and it can keep you from actually going down a dark road sometimes. It gives you access to a wealth of knowledge, and I read everything. obviously read a lot of books. I read a lot of articles, journal articles. I'm like you. I kind of stay away from the news because I think most of the news is fear driven and fear based. So I do what I can to avoid too much of that. But articles, publications in my field or in other fields, just because I feel there is so much value to be gained from other people's knowledge and experience.
Absolutely. And my audience, and I know you guys feel this, and we all try to make a commitment to reading, and other people are saying, man, there's no importance to reading. And I've made a commitment to try to read a book a month. Now, that's nowhere near where Floyd is. He probably tries to read a book a day, but just I try to read a book a month. But it is every time I make a commitment to get into a book, it could be something like this over here. This one here, this book here, probably about 3 or 4 years ago, not to put Ryan Blair, even though I think he's awesome. Rock Bottom to Rock Star. 51 years of age. I told you at 48, I started making a change. About 3 years ago, about that change, I found myself in LA at a Barnes and Noble's, 3 stories high. I think it was Garden Grove. I think that's where it was at. I always find myself over the business section. I picked this book up here and I could not put it down. I literally read 2 or 3 chapters in a matter of 15, 20 minutes. I was there as fast as I could read it, immediately grabbed it, met my wife downstairs because she was looking at some other stuff. I don't know what was down there. It wasn't business books, but it was some other stuff. And put this on the counter, and this thing changed my life. And that's, one amongst other books that has changed my life. And that's what Floyd is talking about. So Floyd, I'm getting ready to ask you a question. I think I know the answer to it, but do you really feel like, because we all want to be leaders, right? We all want to, and if you don't think you're a leader by title, you are with your family, something you're doing. If you have your own business, you're a leader. Whether you feel like you're the dominant person in that organization, you're still a leader, maybe of a department. You're a leader of your grandkids. I mean, you're maybe a leader of your neighborhood. People look at you. Well, Floyd, do you really feel like leaders are readers?
I absolutely do, Matt. And let me say this. I do not have the goal of a book a day. I do have the goal of a book a week. My goal is 52 books this year.
That's all I knew.
I absolutely do believe that leaders are readers, because John Maxwell defines leadership as influence, right? So anyone that says they're not a leader, they're really missing the point of what leadership is. Leadership doesn't have anything to do with position or title. It has to do with influence. And you have influence, whether, like you said, just in your home with your children. There will come a point in time where you're leading your parents because you have influence there. In your social circle, maybe it is at work. Maybe you do have a formal leadership position. But the true test of a leader is not someone that can lead from position or lead from a point of strength. A true leader can lead up. In other words, they can be an influence even to those that are superior to them from a organizational chart standpoint. So leadership is influence. And if you're going to have influence, you have to be able to express wisdom. And the greatest place that I can find to grow in wisdom is through books. It's through just soaking in other people's knowledge, other people's information, phrases, nuggets, things of that nature. I had a guy tell me years ago, I was 20, 21, 22 years old. I was sitting in his office. I was having a meeting with him, and he was sitting in front of this massive bookshelf. Actually, mine's probably a little larger now, but he was sitting in front of this bookshelf, and he said, Floyd, any book you can get your hands on, read it. Any conference that you can go to, go. Anything that you can do to invest in yourself, do it. Because the long-term benefits of that, the long-term reward of that is immeasurable. You can't imagine what one little nugget will do. What if it's just one phrase, one thought, one idea that you picked up from a book that kind of sat dormant for a few days, weeks, months, even years. And then at some point that nugget came out, and man, it could change the trajectory of your career. And you invested $20 in an hour and a half to read a book, or, you invested $400 or $500 to take a class, to do a webinar, to go to a conference. And if it changes the trajectory of your career, that can have a long-term impact. Absolutely. If you want to lead, you need to have a solid knowledge base that is continuing and constantly evolving and growing.
Absolutely. I think going back to that book, I don't know how much this thing cost. It doesn't really matter. Let's just say it was $29. One thing I learned back 3 years ago, and I don't know why it took me this long, guys. If you're following me, I'm sorry. It doesn't have to, you don't have to wait till you're 48 years of age to get your life right, financially and everything else. But at about 3 years ago, I started figuring out that this book did not cost $29. It was worth a whole lot more. So, and Ed Milet says this, and it so resonated when I heard Ed say this about 6 to 12 months ago. But I started identifying this 3 years ago, is that I needed to get away from what things cost and start looking at what they're worth. And that is a subtle distinction. And Ed's so right with that. And that's what I did with that book. Because at the time, finances were a little bit tight. And I started even justifying. And some of you guys do this. Come on, guys. You out in our audience, $29. Come on, man. I don't need to spend that on a book. I can just go there and read a couple sentences or a chapter or two, get away from it. But what is that worth? And I'm constantly going back to this thing. So max out. That's it. Ed,
I only know how to be me. Matt. I'm going to put on my Ed Milet hat for a minute. So this is literally my Ed Milet hat, hashtag max out. I'm going to put on my Ed Milet hat for a minute. I'm going to tell you this. People will often ask, like, I've made major investments in myself. I've spent a ridiculous amount I've spent probably about $150,000 on my education. And somebody asked me, well, Floyd, do you think it's worth it? And I said, I think I'm worth it. I think I'm worth that investment.
Yeah.
I don't know what the education will. I don't know what the return of investment on my education will be, and I don't know if the education is worth it. But I know I'm worth the investment.
Absolutely,
because I'm going to garner a return. I'll take my Milet hat off. I couldn't resist, man. It was sitting there.
Oh, I love it. All right, man. Let's get into the difference between coaching and mentoring. And like I said earlier in this, I don't know, 10 minutes ago, how long we've been talking, I use them interchangeably sometimes, and I know there's a distinct difference between the two. But define that for me, Floyd, just kind of some layman's terms, how we can get that. But if I'm looking to be mentored or looking to be coached, what is the difference between the two?
Well, first of all, Matt, stop doing that. Stop using them interchangeably. They're very, very different. They're very different
too. I don't know.
Yeah, they're very different. Coaching, simply stated, just to make it as simple as possible and break it down as much as I can. Coaching is typically task driven. It's typically very specific. It's task focused, where mentorship is relational. And I've actually I'm a PhD candidate. My dissertation work is actually on mentorship and the impact that mentorship can have on higher education success. And in doing that, I've studied this. I've spent hundreds of hours studying mentorship, reading articles, doing research, reading research on mentorship. And the difference between mentorship and coaching can seem subtle, but that's because of a misconception of what mentorship actually is. So coaching is task driven. It seeks a specific results in growth in a specific skill set. It's to train you for a specific purpose. Coaching is typically something that is short-term. It's a short-term relationship. Mm-hmm. It's very performance-driven, very task-oriented, with a singular focus, like a personal trainer. A personal trainer is a coach, and this coach, what they're doing is they are training you they're coaching you on how to train your body. Mentorship is very different. Mentorship is long-term. It's developmental. It is relational, and it is a holistic approach. A coach is a trainer, but a mentor is a guide, a resource, and maybe most importantly, a mentor is an advocate. A coach is seeking an end result. They are for a purpose. A mentor is for you. A mentor is for your growth and your development over a broad range of skills and abilities.
Man, That's awesome, Floyd. And I tell you what comes to mind is, and guys, my audience, you're going to hear him next week, is my high school football coach, Lou Johnston. If you're out there, kudos to you. And he did everything Floyd is talking about. He was my coach on the field. But what he did my senior year was he brought me to his office. And we're going to talk about this next week a little bit. And I'm sure he remembers this. He's got an incredible memory. But for 15 minutes before school would start, he poured into me and he mentored me. That was the difference. And that's exactly what you're saying. And Floyd, and all these hundreds of hours you've spent, I know you've been mentored. I know you've mentored others. I mean, speak to what could benefit someone. So they're out there going, okay, I understand. I want to get mentored. I want somebody to pour into me. How can it benefit them?
You know, Matt, I've made a ton of mistakes in my life. I've had a lot of failures, and I believe that you learn a lot from your failures. But I don't think that I have to be the one that has the failure and experiences the failure to learn from it. Isaac Newton said, "We can see much further by standing on the shoulders of giants." So mentorship has been key for me. I've had a number of mentors over the course of my life. I've had different mentors simultaneously for different areas of my life. Financial mentors. A friend of mine, Daryl Condit, he was an educator. He was a teacher. He was a high school science teacher, never made a ridiculous amount of money, but he handled his finances so well that he became beyond comfortable, became very successful financially. And so that's the kind of guy I want to have mentor me financially. I don't want a broke financial mentor.
Come on. I had too many in my life.
Right. I don't want an unhealthy and overweight physical mentor, trainer, you know. So we can learn from other people's failures. We can learn from their experiences. From an educational perspective, I can tell you this based upon my research. There's a term that your audience may not be familiar with. I know you know the term, attrition. Attrition is simply, it's a fancy word for the dropout rate. So the dropout rate, do you know that only 40% of college enrollees complete their education within an acceptable time period according to the university? So that means that for a 2-year degree, only 40% of college applicants college people that actually start classes, only 40% of them, 4 out of 10, complete within a 3-year period. Within a 3-year period for a 2-year degree. So the dropout rate is huge. The educational industry spends billions, $16.5 billion in 2018 on customer acquisition or student acquisition costs. And 40% of those never complete. Or 60% of them never complete, 40% complete within the first 3 years. 84% of attrition rates can be attributed to one of 4 major areas, 4 major risk factors: lack of care exhibited from the school, poor service or treatment, the idea that college is not worth it, or scheduling issues. All of these 4 major issues that cause 84% of the dropouts can be mitigated through mentorship. From a non-mentored students, 4 times as likely to drop out as mentored students. From a corporate standpoint, from a corporate perspective, it's the same issues that causes turnover within an organization. Mm-hmm. You know, it costs thousands and thousands at times, depending upon the position, tens of thousands of dollars to train an incoming employee. And yet turnover it's a constant issue that corporations are trying to figure out how to deal with. And it's the same kind of issues: lack of care, lack of concern, not feeling valued by the organization, feeling like it's not worth it. They're not trained properly, but they don't have an advocate within the organization. Mentorship can alleviate so many of those issues that cause such a high turnover rate. Just qualified mentorship could alleviate so much of that pain. And even from a budgetary standpoint, it's not all about the money to me, but even from a budgetary standpoint, can so significantly and so drastically reduce the cost of turnover. Why aren't more corporations and educational institutions using mentorship? The reality of it is that mentorship benefits everyone.
Mhm.
I've seen the personal impact of mentorship on my life, but from a broad perspective, mentorship, obviously it benefits the protege, it benefits the mentee, the person being mentored, because they learn, they have an advocate, they have a resource, they have a guide to help navigate the challenges. It benefits the organization, whether it be an institutional, educational institution, or a corporation, because it reduces turnover, it reduces attrition, it lowers costs and raises profit.
Mhm.
And then it benefits. This is funny to think about, but it actually benefits the mentor. You'll know, most of your students will know, most people watching this will know, that in order to really understand something, the evidence that you really understand something is that you can explain it simply. And so for a mentor, as they're learning how to be a guide, an advocate, and a resource, they dive deeper and they learn more about the organization, about the culture, about the institution, about the specific skills that you need to be successful. And they actually experience a significant level of growth in as a peripheral effect of being a mentor.
Man, that's great, Floyd. And I tell you, hearing all the benefits of how it is for a student to an organization, a business, the mentor, the mentee, and all that, my audience would say, where do I find a person that can pour into me? Their immediate thought is, man, it's going to cost me money. It's going to cost me time. And again, going back to that book thing, don't worry about what it costs. Worry about what it's worth to you. But how practically, Floyd, can somebody, because I'm telling you, I've got a number of mentors in my life, and you're so correct, man. Don't go to the gym when somebody's out of shape. Don't try to get with somebody that's giving you financial advice and they're broker than you are, or whatever it may be. But get with somebody. But how do you identify somebody like that? Where do you find someone like that?
Well, the first thing that you have to do, Matt, is you have to overcome the obstacle of feeling like you're not worth it. You are worth it. You have value. You as an individual, you have value just in and of yourself. Like, you need to identify the intrinsic value that you have. You need to realize that there are people that are counting on you, people that are rooting for you. And yeah, there's those critics too. But one of my favorite things to do is use critics and haters as motivation. So identify that you're worth it. You're worth the investment, whether time, financial resources, whatever it takes for you to gain knowledge, to gain wisdom, that things that are going to propel you into your future. You're worth the investment. I want to just look you dead in the eye if you're watching this and tell you, you are absolutely worth the investment, and do not underestimate your potential, and do everything that you can to feed yourself through all of the areas that Matt and I are talking about today. But find a mentor. And mentorship is weird. It's odd. People, when I say this to people, it sounds odd. It sounds weird to them. Mentorship in a lot of ways is like dating. You don't date, like, not dating just for fun, but dating with the long-term result of finding a life partner. Mentorship is like dating in that way. First, you have to identify what you need. Where are your weaknesses? What are the areas that you need mentorship in? For some, you need like holistic, broad approach mentorship, and then, but for some, it's specific areas. I need mentorship through this educational process. I need financial mentorship, somebody to teach me how to budget, somebody to help me properly steward my financial resources. So identify what your need is. That's the first step, is identify what your need is. And then the second step is figure out find places where you can find that mentor. For some of us, it's church. For some of us, it's business mixers, social gatherings that are business related or industry specific, and you can find mentors there. You have to be willing to seek people out. You have to be willing to approach people. Again, like dating, you have to be able to overcome that fear of rejection in order to find the right potential mentor. For some people, it's work, church, anywhere that people gather. you have the opportunity to find a mentor, and then it's kind of like a date. You make the approach. You tell them, you ask them out for coffee. You begin to spark up a relationship. You begin to spark up conversations. And now with technology the way that it is, just like this, right? We're in shelter in place, and we're miles apart, but we have this ability to connect via video teleconferencing. It's a wonderful tool that can be used for mentorship, and it really lightens the load and lightens the burden for the mentor. So don't be afraid to ask, but it's kind of like a date. You ask them out on a date, you have a conversation, you see if you connect, you see if there's the potential there, and you see if they're willing to help participate. A couple of things that I would say: always be prepared. Don't just show up empty. Have questions to ask. Have, gain from their knowledge. You're going to have to shut up for a little while. You're going to have to listen. You're going to have to listen to people when they talk.
People like me.
Well, me too. I'm a talker. But the point of a mentor, right, is to gain from their knowledge, and they can't share their knowledge with you if you're constantly talking. And then most importantly, man, always show gratitude. Always express gratitude. Always be grateful for the time that they're investing in you. And then even if it's, so I had this financial mentor that I've mentioned, and I hadn't talked to him in a long time, and I've had some big financial wins as of late, paying off some old debt and just some even small things. And I just shot him an email the other day. Hey man, I know that, we haven't talked about this in a long time. It's been years actually since he's mentored me in that area, but I wanted to let you know that the things that you said to me 2-3 years ago are still playing a role in my life. They're still having an impact. And this is what's happened over the course of the last 6 months. That's a direct impact of the time that you invested in me. Make them see the value in the investment that they're making you. It's huge. And then I also want to mention too, Matt, there's a lot of people, Brene Brown, she has mentored me. She's mentored me. Ed Milet that we talked about, he's mentored me. He's been a mentor for me.
I'm jealous.
Yeah, right. And it's through this. It's what I call distance mentors. I've never had a personal connection with Brene Brown or Ed Milet, but I've read their books. I watch their podcast. I listen to their material. They are mentoring hundreds of people through the investment that they're making.
That's right.
In the time that they are spending to put their knowledge out there and to share their knowledge with us. And we need to steward that well and apply that as well. You can have distance mentors that you never, ever meet. It's just all about your perspective.
That's right. Well, Floyd, let me put you on the spot real quick. Far as let's do a real life kind of, and I know we can't do a mentor kind of thing on the, this whole thing we got going on Facebook Live, but let's say I'm a person, I come to you and I say, Floyd, I'm just stuck. I feel like I'm stuck in my 9-to-5 job, stuck where I'm at. And again, you guys, let me preface this by saying there's nothing wrong with having a job. Many of you know I'm an entrepreneur. This is all I do. But I did that for years, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's a lot of discipline that comes out of that. My dad only missed 1 day of work that I know of in all his life. So that's kind of where I got my work kind of ethic coming from, was my dad. But so there's nothing wrong with that. But let's say you are the person that you just have this dream, something within you that you want to do something different. I struggled with it for years. Floyd, I'm coming to you going, I want to get out of this 9-to-5 rut or this 8-to-6 kind of deal. I want to pursue my career. What advice would you give me?
Well, Matt, a lot of people will tell you to follow your passion. If you chase your passion, that the money will come. And then there's an equal number of people that will tell you the exact opposite of that. They'll tell you that you need to follow the money and find passion in that. And I honestly, I think it's a balance. I think there has to be a balance there. I think for some of us, and there's nothing wrong with working a 9-to-5. There's nothing wrong with being a part of an organization, and you can find your career in that, and that may be your thing. That's not me. I want to be the master of my own destiny. I want to be in control.
Amen. Preach.
Right. So you can. So there's Matt and I. We're a different kind of breed. We're a different breed. It takes a lot because it's scary. right? It's scary to walk away. I've done it more than once. I've burned a lot of bridges. You go to the island and burn the boat, that
Yeah.
old analogy.
Come on, Tony Robbins.
Yeah, I've done that. I've done that more than once. And it, I've caught my shirt on fire doing it too. So there are risks associated with that. So I honestly, I would tell people there has to be balance. Number one, you have to be willing to work hard. You have to be willing to work hard. You've got your 9 to 5, and then you start your second job at 5:30 when you get home, and you get to the office at the house, and you start pounding away, and you start doing the work, and you start again with technology, all of the resources that are available to us. Find the thing that you're passionate about. First of all, I would say this: some of you don't even know what you're really passionate about. You have a grand idea, you have this grand vision of what it's going to be like in a certain field. But I would do some work. I'd volunteer in that area. I would get my boots on the ground. I would find out, is this really something that I'm passionate about, or have I idealized it? Because that's a big thing too. Ed Milet says, for some of us, it's there's nothing wrong with climbing the corporate ladder. There's nothing wrong with growing in an organization. But the challenge is you still have your ladder leaned against somebody else's building. And I don't want to be that guy. I want to be in control of my own destiny. So I've done things. When I went back to school at 35 years old, I took a number of classes to try to find what area suited me, to try to find the things that fit me. So to get back to the point, my thing would be this: find things that you're passionate about. Explore. Get out there and try things. Volunteer at different organizations. Talk to people. Set up informational interviews. You know what people like to talk about more than anything in their lives? Themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So you can set up an informational interview. Let people what you're doing. You're trying there. You may have to make 30 calls to get one person to say yes. But you can set up an informational interview with somebody in the field or organization that you're interested in that line of work, and go prepared with a list of questions to ask them. Ask them what a typical day looks like for them. Maybe that might encourage you to make the jump, or maybe it might cause you to say, wait a minute, I have an idealized view of this. So do those things, get the information, and then ultimately, don't be afraid to make a change. You can always undo it. You can always go back. You can always start over. For most of us, the reality of it is, man, there are options, there are opportunities to chase our passion. Some of us have passions that we can get paid for. Some of us don't. But find a way to fulfill your passion alongside of your current income until you build enough income from your passion to make the jump.
Floyd, that's so awesome. And I want to kind of tie this together with mentoring, because in my life, some of the mentors I've had have been some of the strongest advocates of, Matt, go do it. Matt, push through. Matt, you've got it in you. And that is the point of having a mentor, because when you're all by yourself, what you're typically going to do is listen to your self-critic, which Floyd, you said that was you, and that's me. I'm my strongest critic. And we're going to identify immediately our weaknesses. And we're going to hear people that we try to confide in, maybe somebody at work or a family member that's kind of given up on their own dreams. And we go to them for advice about pursuing a dream. Now, kind of picture that. You're going to somebody that is giving up on their dream, but you want to pursue yours. What kind of advice are you really going to get? Go to a mentor. Have somebody that's going to believe in you. It's going to embrace your opportunity, embrace your vision, get behind you, support you. Now, when I say support, it's not always in terms of dollars and cents. A lot of the strongest mentors I've had in my life are not ones who've given me money. They've been ones who've given me their time, their advice. They have propelled and pushed me years forward in advance. So it's those type individuals. But get a mentor, because if you want to pursue your career or pursue something different, whatever that is, and again, I'm not bagging a 9-to-5 job. Hey, get a job, get something that you enjoy, you can make money. As long as you have gratitude, as long as you have satisfaction, you're supporting yourself and your family, it doesn't matter. You just do it and it's ethical. But as far as if you have a career in mind, something you want to do, I remember coming back from LA, my wife and I I told her about this vision about being a referral agent, about helping seniors at no cost, no obligation, and doing this thing. It was a big risk, but you know what? My wife, who believes in me, immediately embraced it. She's not a person that's given up on her dreams. And she said, let's do it. You've got it within you. Man, that's all I needed. We dove 30 feet in the water. We started swimming. We took that boat to the island, burned it. We did it all. I could have lost my car. We could have lost our house. We could have lost everything at that juncture in our life. But because we pushed through it and took the risk, we are where we are today. And so we're thankful for that. But I believe a mentor would help you get from where you are to where you want to be, wherever that is. Our paths are different, but get a mentor, somebody that's going to have the expertise, like Floyd. Man, reach out to Floyd. You see his number. I don't think, Floyd, you would mind people calling you, seeking advice. They might blow up your phone now, Floyd. You might be getting but seek advice and somebody that's going to be able to offer something they have proven in their own life, not something that they're hoping to do. And there's nothing wrong with those individuals, but it's kind of going back to that analogy we said earlier, going to the gym and somebody's really out of shape, they want to train you. It's not the ideal person that I want to train me. I'm already out of shape. I need somebody that is in shape, that has a proven regiment and a proven strategy to get to where they need to be. So, Floyd, I really appreciate your time, man. I really do. And I know we're showing your number on the screen and all that good stuff. Is there any way people can contact you, or is there a better approach to contact you?
Sure. I'm at OGLEF2, at OGLEF, the number 2 on all social media platforms. My personal website is currently under development, floydogle.com. It's active, and the contact link is there, and the About Me just takes you to my Facebook page right now. That's under development right now. We're working on that. My business partner and I, we do, our business is called Collabucate, and we do collaborative educational model. We're working on some various mentorship platforms and working on personal development ideas and strategies. And that's collabucate.com. But OGLEF2 on all social media platforms, you'll find me. My phone number is on the screen. Feel free to reach out to me anytime. I'm here. Text message, phone call, whatever. I do maintain a pretty rigorous schedule, so it might take me a little while to get back to you, but I promise you, if you call me or shoot me a text, I'll definitely, or contact me through my website, I'll definitely get back to you.
Absolutely. Floyd, my man, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And we'll be in talk soon. We'll talk soon, my friend. I appreciate you.
My pleasure, Matt. Thanks.
You bet. Guys, I hope you got a lot out of this. I know I did, in terms of identifying a mentor, who a mentor is, what they can do for my own life, as proof positive in my life, Floyd's life, others. I would encourage you today to get a mentor. Also, I would encourage you, if you're looking for a career, you're looking for something to do, you're at home right now watching this and you've stayed on for 30, 45 minutes listening to our discussion, and you want something, you keep seeing this thing on the screen about an 87% discount of a Senior Referral Academy. That is the industry that I'm in. That's what I do. That's what I do as far as coaching others across the country to do the very thing that I do. So if you would like more information about the Senior Referral Academy, how to get started, that 87% discount only lasts until midnight the 31st. So up until tomorrow midnight, then it goes back to its normal price. But reach out to me. You see the number on the screen, 559-210-4152. Until next time, God bless, and we'll talk soon.